Welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonado. The Black Knight Nation podcast is sponsored by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a company run by Joe Ross. Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer, and we thank Higher Echelon for sponsoring this podcast. You can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, all those audio platforms. You can also find us on Black Knight Nation YouTube, and please check out our website, blackknightnation.com. There's a lot of information on recruiting, and we're getting very close to the start of the preseason practice for the Black Knights, and we have a special guest tonight. We're welcoming in wide receivers coach for Army, Aaron Smith. Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Sal, thank you for the opportunity to join the Black Knight podcast. I'm excited to be on with you tonight.
Absolutely. Now, I'm not too sure when. Probably a little outside of a month starting, right, for preseason. It's getting pretty close, and I'm guessing the anticipation, this is going to be your first year coaching the team. You came on in the spring and had that spring, the 15 practices or so to get familiar with the team. And, you know, some people don't know that you were you lived at Post for a while when you were in high school. So maybe you can run us through that. I mean, Aaron, I covered you in high school. I covered you at James I. O'Neill when you were a wide receiver there. For the local paper, and just to talk about that and what it was like to live on campus. And I think you were there for 3 years.
So my father is a retired colonel in the United States Army, so he was active duty when I was in high school. And we were moving from Oklahoma, and he told me we were moving to New York. So I'm thinking, New York City. And then we popped up at the gates of West Point, and it wasn't New York City, but they were an awesome 3 years, and just the experiences of being, in the Hudson Valley, but more importantly, being on West Point, to be around the young men and women who were getting ready to serve the country. Just being able to go to games, whether it was hockey, basketball. I was at every football game. I was lucky enough to go through some tailgates, to go to the top and get some good food, and then be on the sideline. It was a pretty special opportunity for me. So, I'm excited that I'm back and I have the opportunity to be here and share this with my family now.
That's got to be really, I didn't realize that you had you on-field access, all the home games. So you really got a taste of what Army football was like right before you went off to college. And in college, right, it was first you wide receiver, like Maryland, right, was your first stop, and then UConn?
Correct. 2 years at the University of Maryland and 3 years at UConn. And again, being at West Point gave me the exposure to see what college football was all about, the how tough it could be, but also how much fun and rewarding it could be to be, involved in college athletics.
When you were at when you were living on Post, were you recruited by Army at all?
I did. I was recruited by Army. So Bob Sutton was the head coach when I first got here. I went to high school with his daughter. Was good friends with her, and then Todd Berry took over. So I was recruited. Had opportunity to, I took an official visit. So obviously a special place to me. Kind of hard shoes to follow, following a colonel in the Army, my father, but did have the opportunity to be exposed to West Point.
Gotcha. And so you go to Maryland for your early in your college career, and then you transfer to UConn, and then kind of it comes full circle a little bit, right? When your playing career is over, you were able also to coach at your alma mater in college. So what was, first of all, do you have any memories from playing either at Maryland or UConn that you could share with us?
I mean, the biggest thing is just being involved in college athletics. It's a lot more than what people see. I mean, of course you see, TV and, obviously now it's a different world with NIL, but just the bonds that you make and, learning how to go through adversity. Because obviously in high school, a lot of the players that make it to play at the collegiate level, they were, maybe a big fish in a small pond. Now you go to college and you have to learn how to adjust and be, a smaller piece of a bigger puzzle. But it was an awesome 2 years at Maryland, but a great experience at UConn as well. Just, really blessed to have the opportunity to play college football, but obviously now to coach it and be around, especially the guys here at West Point, to have the opportunity to serve them.
No doubt. UConn, when you were at UConn, that was when they were having some success on the field, right? I mean, there were some pretty good teams up there.
Correct. So when I got there in 2003, that was our first full year. We were FBS right
Wow.
before we went into the Big East. So had a lot of success. It was kind of right around the turn of the success for UConn. A couple years after I left, they made it to the Fiesta Bowl. So we had some good years there, and it was kind of the up and coming, transitioning from FCS 1AA football to FBS. So a lot of good years early on at my time at UConn.
So how does your coaching career start? Does it start off as a grad assistant, or how do you get your coaching start, so to speak?
I'll be honest with you. When I was getting ready to graduate, I wanted to go to grad school, and I did a lot of community service stuff. I wanted to work with under privileged youth, and then I had a man by the name of Andy Baylock, who was the longtime head baseball coach at UConn. He suggested that I meet the coach at the United States Coast Guard Academy. He said, "Hey, you have a military background. It's football. You're still serving the youth, but you get a chance to still be around football." And at first I said, "Nah, thanks, but no thanks." But then he talked me into it. And I said, "You know what? For you, I'll do it." And then just the opportunity to still be around young people and serve young people and still be around football. That was my first stop, the United States Coast Guard Academy. And then I was hooked from there. It was what I wanted to do, and it's my passion.
Yeah, so you were at an academy to start your career, right? And you also had the experience of being around the football program at West Point when you were in high school. So, I mean, what was it kind of a no-brainer to when you were kind of offered this job at Army? I mean, do you consider this, I don't know about a dream job, but definitely a destination that you want to get in your coaching career, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you say West Point, I mean, it's no matter who you're talking to, that name means a lot to people. And before you even get into the football, just the young women and men that come here to serve their country, that are called upon on a bigger purpose, and then to have the opportunity to play college athletics is kind of a cherry on top. But when the opportunity was here, I wanted it, I wanted it bad. This is a place that I grew up, but West Point is special, and the opportunity to coach these young men and to serve this football team, it was something I wanted to do, and I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to do so.
Is it something that during your coaching career that did you ever apply, or did you ever show interest before this time around? I mean, when you were younger in your coaching career, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, just like probably anybody in coaching, you always kind of look back to where home is, and when you're a military brat, you get to pick your home. So I have about two of them in mind, but this place was home for me for my high school years, and you always I followed every season at West Point, and have an opportunity to know people still involved with the program, and and then of course when the game comes in December, no matter what I was doing. Working, with the various other football programs, I always had my phone out. If I couldn't watch the game, I had my phone out, seeing what was going on. So, I mean, this place is special to a lot of people. Obviously special to me from having my time here. But, when I saw there was a potential opportunity, I dove headfirst into it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you see when Coach Monken gets here in 2014 and how the program is now, a consistent winner each year, right? And I mean, when you get to a program like that, and you get that, just the culture is a word that's used a lot, but brotherhood is also a word that's used a lot at West Point with the core cadets as much as the football team, right? And I was wondering, when you first got to, like, say your first couple days on the job at West Point, what was that like? I mean, you kind of knew a lot about that from being around the program in high school, but then to have it be, hey, this is what I'm going to be around for 365, what I'm going to the job at hand, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, probably more than I ever imagined. And again, growing up in the military family, you kind of have an understanding of what, it takes special people. It takes special young men and women to come here. But just the first couple of days, it was kind of a shock of adrenaline. I mean, these young men are phenomenal to be around. They love football. They love West Point, but, more importantly, they love each other. And that's a lot of fun to be around. And it starts, obviously with this place. This is West Point, but then with Coach Monken and the culture that he's built, and this brotherhood is deep, and these guys, I keep talking about service, but, you serve these young men, and they serve one another. It's important to them that they're doing what they need to do for each other. And, that's what team's all about. I mean, if you had to define a team and put a picture of it, I mean, you can take a picture of our locker room. It's a special group to be a part of, and I'm definitely excited and blessed that I have the opportunity. I mean, I know this is work, but man, like to be able to walk into that building every day, watch those guys lift, watch them train, watch them compete, watch them just be around each other. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And that Army, so wide receivers coach at Army is a lot different than being a wide receivers coach at UConn, right? Because of the offense, the option offense that Army plays, where it's run first, so to speak. And what was that like for you? Because I mean, now blocking, you're probably doing more blocking drills or having more blocking practice blocking during those sessions than you had before. Was that something that did you research at all, or is that something that you kind of knew that coming into the job that you would have to, that your position players would have to put a lot of effort into that? No doubt. Yes.
Yeah, well, I'll say, no matter where you're at, you have your core principles. Whether it's, coaching receivers, for me, it's stance and start, it's route running, it's blocking, and it's releases. And all those things are involved no matter which offense, you're in. So you have that foundation. Now, schematically, what we do is cater towards the young men that we're able to recruit that fits, our scheme. And, Coach Munkin talks about it all the time. If we possess the ball and we're scoring the football, it makes it pretty hard on the other team. So the schematics are a little bit different. I've been, in programs that ran the triple, but to me, it's just another opportunity to be a part of something that's bigger than, the scheme. You can run whatever scheme that you want. If you're not having success and winning games, what does that mean? And, Coach Davis has implemented, his system here, and the guys run it really well. And it's a lot of fun to be a part of.
You mentioned we mentioned wide receivers at Army, right? And the physicality of that position, and how sometimes you may be blocking in a little bit and having to play an outside linebacker, maybe a defensive end and stuff like that. How much is that embraced by the players, do you think, about being because I know back in the day, not back in the day, a few years back, when you talk about guys like Jeff Ejeckham, I mean, those guys definitely took blocking, and winning those blocks. They knew that was a part of the offense's success. So how, the physicality of the position, can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, and again, it's ingrained in the culture of this football team. Whatever your job or your responsibility is, you do it, to the best of your ability. And, these guys embrace every ounce of what they're asked to do. And, and part of what we do, it is blocking. And they go at it just as hard as any place I've ever been at running a route. I mean, it is really important to them. And it's not just for each individual, it's for the group. There's a rallying cry with the group, to be the most physical, group of receivers in the country. And they take pride in that. And that's top down, and I think that is when you step into a room where, hey, this is the culture, put in place by the program, and it's filtered into the room. I'm not pulling teeth to get guys to practice hard. I mean, they go, and it's important to them. It's a big part of what we do, and it makes our offense successful. And if you can run the ball successfully, you have opportunities in the pass game.
Yeah, I was wondering, with it being your first season coaching Army, is there anything that you want to do in your position group or position room to put a stamp on what you want to accomplish for the guys? I mean, I know that there's a lot, the groups have nicknames at Army, the position groups have nicknames at Army, or maybe is there a motto or a saying that you guys might want to follow? Did you implement any of that? Or
yeah, we again, and there's a sign that's in the room, and I think it started with Jeff Ejeckham and his crew. It's just the home of the most physical receiver group in the country, and I think that's a starting point. And that's not just blocking. That's sometimes you may have to catch a slant and get a first down. Maybe it means getting off of press coverage, whatever that entails. But, just being the toughest group in the nation, trying to be willing to do whatever it takes for this team to be successful. And I think you start there. And that doesn't matter, whatever coach, whatever the plays that's called, we're going to go out there and try and execute it. If we have to get in there in the box and dig out a linebacker, we're going to do that to the best of our ability. So the big rallying cry for our group is, to play as hard as you can, for the full 4 quarters. And, at the end of the day, if you've done your best, we'll see where the chips lie.
No doubt. If you're watching us right now and you have a question for Aaron or myself, please feel free to send us questions. Let's start. Let's go to the guys that you have in your position room, and we'll talk about one, and then we'll talk about some of the other guys. Isaiah Alston and the breakout season he had last year. It's something that you could see he was on the horizon. He was very close to. You saw it his freshman year. The talent was there, and it seemed like he put it all together his sophomore year, and to start your first season off with a talent like Isaiah Alston. Just what have you seen from him, and what is it like coaching him so far?
I'd say the biggest thing is he's like all the rest of those guys in the room where it's team first. You go to a lot of places and you have a big playmaker on the outside, and it's, how many touches can I get? Not once in spring am I hearing him say, hey, I need this or I want this. It's, hey, coach, did I do this right? How was my footwork? So he's really bought into this culture, and I think that's what makes this team special. But he is talented, and he's a talented pass catcher. And he made the most of some opportunities last year, and definitely looking forward to seeing what he can do this year. He has really good ball skills. He has good length and good speed when he's in the open field. So, if you kind of draw a picture of a wideout, he has a lot of those characteristics, that you want. And so I'm excited to work with him some more and and have him reach his full potential in everything that we do.
I was going to ask, I think that he hasn't reached his full potential yet. That's what's so, if you're an Army fan, the potential that he has is still, I mean, man, there's points in the game where when you need a big play, he's been consistently there for them last year. So, the other team knows that he's the number one wide receiver, but that also has to take the attention to him and give some other opportunities especially the running game too. Opens up it opens up so much when you have those threats, I think, Aaron, right? Or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you can be multi-dimensional in your offense, and again, we're gonna run the football. That's how our team is built, and that's been the successful ingredient to the plan. So we're gonna run the football, and then we're gonna take advantage of throwing the ball down the field, when we need to do that as well. So when you have somebody like Isaiah, it threatens the defense. You maybe run the ball effectively. And it's hard to put everybody in the box. You have somebody like him, because now it's a one-on-one situation, and that's dangerous. Now it's a 40-yard throw over the top. So having somebody like him and and other guys in the room that can stretch the defense, it helps out the running game. And then when we feel the need to take our shots, we'll take them and try and make them count.
Yeah, I mean, you have in your position group, you have other players who have saw the field last year and made some plays. Ryan Jakovic's one of them. Cole Catterbone is another guy. I know he's going to be playing maybe slot, maybe wide receiver, going to be in and that, switching off positions. Maybe Vishay Danion's another guy. Talk about some of the other guys you're able to coach on this team entering the preseason.
Cole is just about as steady as they come. I mean, he is a leader. Like if you want to draw the prototype of what you want somebody graduating from West Point to be, he's that. I mean, he's just from day one has been phenomenal, just with his leadership and just being accountable to the guys in the room. I say the same thing with Ryan Jakovich. He stepped in and he hasn't played as much as maybe Isaiah and Cole, but he's been on the field, and he's I saw firsthand last year. I think him make his first correct. I was on the opposite sidelines, and but he's got a lot of ability, and just when you have guys like that, it helps out the whole room. They're willing to do whatever is necessary for the team to be successful, and they have the ability to make plays when given the opportunity as well. And Vishay Daniel is another name that you mentioned. Had a decent spring, and looking to continue to build upon. He has some of the same traits that Isaiah has with some speed, and just looking to to build as many guys that we can to run through that rotation to be dynamic as possible.
Yeah, the wide receiver position in Army's offense is a position that's going to bring in the plays most of the time, and you're going to switch out. They've done a great job of balancing snaps for getting some guys on the field, some playing time, and maybe who knows, you got some rising sophomores coming in, Cam Shore. Thinking of Casey Reynolds as wide receivers. Maybe you can help me out with some of those sophomores that maybe. Last spring was the spring that just passed. Was there time to get some snaps in and see if they could take that next step to getting closer to the field?
Yeah, and spring ball is pivotal for each program because that's where you build your team. There are different seasons and different phases, and that's an important one because you get those freshmen who may have been on scout team. They get the opportunities within the offense, and Cam Sure, someone who stood out, really good speed, good ball skills. Casey Reynolds, a little bit of the same. He's a two-sport guy here, also plays lacrosse, really athletic. Logan Burks is another one. Got a lot of valuable reps here this spring. So there's a lot of talent in that room. And again, the goal is to come out of this thing where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 all look the same. You're obviously going to have your guys that you want to touch the ball, but to build some diversity in the room, to build some depth, guys knowing their role and knowing how to execute it and do whatever's asked of them in the offense so we can be multidimensional. And it doesn't matter who's in the game, that we can still be effective in the run game and in the pass game where we need to be.
I was going to ask you because I know you're coaching wide receivers, but in Army's offense, the slots also get some looks through the passing game. And maybe when you're during the spring practice, the abilities that you see from the slot receivers like Tyrell Robinson and Ajon Marshall, they're gonna line up in a slot position sometimes outside of the tackle and have some opportunities. I mean, sometimes those guys, I'm sure during like team drills at the beginning of the practices, maybe you get a chance to look at those guys, and those guys have a lot. Those guys are very talented guys that are going to be a crucial part of this offense, I think.
Yeah, they're very dynamic playmakers, and you've seen both of them. Definitely T-Rob make some plays last year and saw what he can do with the ball in his hands. And Ajon's another one. He's lightning in the bottle, really smart football player. It's funny. Like we do a lot of the same things, the slots and the wide outs. And Ajon's one of those guys. He'll make a play and be like, "Coach, I can do whatever you need me to do outside too." So again, a lot of fun to be around. But those guys are dynamic, and they're going to do us. They're going to do a great job this year, and given the opportunities, when we need them to touch the ball, they're going to make some plays for us.
Yeah, Brahim Murphy is another guy who's definitely made some big plays for this team. And you look at Army's offense coming into the season, and there's some guys that graduation losses on the offensive line, and fullback rotation needs to maybe build some depth. But the playmaking that could be a part. It's got to be really fun to be in offensive meetings before practice with even the coaching staff to see that, like, what maybe I know potential is a word that maybe I use a little too much, Aaron, but it seems like there's a lot of options for, no pun intended, a lot of options for this team this season on offense.
Well, I think the exciting thing is when you look at the roster and you're talking about it in the meeting room, and Coach Davis is kind of going over the depth chart and the board. It's there's a lot of guys that have played, and that's just as important as talent. There's a lot of guys that have played valuable football, and then add on to that, we have talented guys that have played football and that have made plays, scored touchdowns, had explosive plays in this offense. It's it definitely gets you excited. When you walk into a situation where not a lot of guys have played, you don't know what to expect. That's hard, and it makes it a little bit easier when hey, this guy has been in the pressure cooker before and he's produced. Okay, so how do we get him the football and make sure that he can produce for this football team? And when you start making a list of these are the guys that you want to get involved in the offense, and it starts to go, hey, this guy and this guy too. That's pretty exciting when you're rattling off multiple names at multiple positions.
Yeah, you look at so the season opens at Coastal Carolina on September 3rd, right? That's a very successful program over the last 2 years, and that you're going to go into that game with, like you said, an offense that has guys with experience who played in bigger games than that, who have been a factor in huge games, Army, Navy, bowl games, games against Power 5 teams. So, it's not like I don't think an Army team ever goes into a game thinking, what blanks or anything like that, or flinches or anything like that. But you're going to have a team that's going to be putting the gas pedal on pretty much go to start the season, which is, on offense, like you said, when you have guys that have taken the reps, it got to be pretty good feeling. Yeah, you still got a couple weeks until you get to the preseason practices, but man, it's got to be a pretty good feeling for the coaching staff.
It is to walk into camp knowing that there's some pieces there. It's exciting, but I think Coach Munkin does a great job of explaining to all of us that, hey, this is the the 2022 version, of West Point football. So, these guys and the coaching staff, we have to do a good job of putting them in successful positions, and they have to go out and execute. And there is some talent, but at the end of the day, this is a new team. Every year you walk into a new team, and coaches explain that to the team and explain that to us as a staff. So we're excited for this version to start fall camp and hit the ground running.
Yeah, this is the last question before we let you go. Saw a picture on social media where you hosted, I guess, the wide receivers at your house with your family and stuff like that. And you talked about like what it's gonna. This is your family's first time on post being hired as coach, and just that shows like it's so much more about football at West Point, right? And when you have that group of guys that you're seeing almost every day, right? Once the season starts on the field and the film rooms and stuff like that. But to have that kind of family atmosphere around the team, just what's that like for you, just to have your family experience it, the brotherhood, so to speak, firsthand?
I mean, when it comes to the guys, to show, the most important things in my life are, my wife and my children, so that to expose them to that, I'm showing them that I love them and care about them too. But selfishly, I mean, my kids get a chance to be around, West Point cadets, West Point football players. I mean, what better role models could I ask, for my children to get a chance to experience? And it's, they came over. It was just phenomenal to watch them and to watch, again, my son's 8 years old and he plays football. So of course he's all into it. But just to be able to watch them interact with my family and to watch, my kids watch them and talk about them and, ask me, hey, tell me about Isaiah. Hey, tell me about Ryan or tell me about, so it's special. I mean, if you want a group of young men to point to you out to your son or even your daughter, hey, this is who I want you to be like, it's pretty easy. I mean, these are special young men that we have on our football team.
Yeah, I thought when I was covering the team, I always want to portray, these are special kids, right, that come to West Point, but they also are just kind of just like everyday people like me and you, right? I mean, they have their stories. Everybody has a unique story to tell about how they got to West Point, or maybe the path that they took, how they had to like go through high school and get those grades up. And sometimes there's some hardships or some bumps in the road for these guys to get to West Point, but you're getting the best of the best, right? And that everybody has a story, and at the end, after their 4 years, they're going to be a commissioned officer and they're going to be protecting our country. So it's just like, I always tried to like push that narrative that, these guys have a story to tell just like everybody else. Everybody has their own story. And then when you sit down and talk to these kids and engage in these kids, it's just amazing their path to West Point and their path when they're at West Point too, because it's not, football isn't everything. Football isn't everything at Army, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, these are special people, but they're still young people. They get cultivated, and you kind of grow the plant down the hill in academia, and then what they do from a military standpoint, and the job remains the same as a coach. We're still building upon who they are to try and squeeze the most juice out of them as we can, so we can do our small part in developing these young men for West Point and for our country. So we play a small part in that, but they are still young people. We're still teaching and coaching, but what a group of young people to start off with as far as coaching.
Man, it's going to be exciting to watch this year, man. I can't wait to see you guys out there. Hope to get to some preseason practices and see the team in action. Man, it'd be fun to follow you, Aaron. We really appreciate the time tonight, and look forward to maybe seeing you in the preseason and during the season too. Thanks so much for your time.
So again, I appreciate your time, and be Navy.